Welcome to the daily Tokyo Hockey Show on the FIH YouTube channel with me, Sarah Juggins. Every day throughout the games, I'll be joined by a stellar lineup of guests from the world of hockey. From across the globe, respected and renowned players and coaches will be offering insights, analysis, and the occasional anecdote to give a different and entertaining perspective on the hockey competitions at the 32nd Olympiad. Today, I am delighted to welcome two more of our guests. Former international player and now head coach to the Kenyan women's national hockey team, Jackie Mwangi. Hi, Jackie. How are you?
Hi, Sarah.
Brilliant to see you. And we also have a German hockey legend, the double Olympic champion Mo First, who was part of the golden generation of German players who won gold in 2008 and 2012, as well as bronze in 2016. Hi, Mo.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant to see you as well. I'm just going to ask you straight off, Mo, before we dive into anything else. I imagine you're quite impressed with your team after their performance today against Canada.
Yeah, I was very happy. I was watching it. Actually, we have here in my hometown in Hamburg, we have a really cool Olympic lounge. They built it up in the town hall, and so people can go there, buy tickets, and then little networking and watch the games. So we watched the hockey game there this morning with like 10 friends, and they really enjoyed it. It was a good match. To be honest, it was probably a must-win for the team, but against Canada. But I think they were very happy with the outcome and the result. And to start into a tournament like that is always very important.
Absolutely. I mean, we'll talk about that more a little bit later. But that momentum that you get from an opening win and a confidence-boosting win like that must mean so much to a team.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there are also little other facts like getting the short corners in place and scoring a couple in the first game is always very good for the drag flickers. And then having a couple of forwards score goals, because we all know they need that self-confidence. It shouldn't take too much time for the strikers to get into a tournament like this. So I was also very happy with the performance of Christopher Ruhr at that point, and who could score a couple of goals, which could be very decisive for the German team this year. No, but as you said, it's good to start like that. But then in the end, it's 48 hours till the next game. So I'm very sure that they will not think about that for many more minutes than until probably now when they go to bed.
Yeah, no, moving on. Brilliant. Okay, before we take an in-depth look at the rest of today's games, and there has been an incredible amount of games today for hockey fans across the world to savour, which is brilliant after quite a long break. I just wanted to ask you both a couple of questions more generally about the Olympic Games. So, Mo, I'll speak to you first, just as a veteran of several Olympic Games. Can you even start to compare this games with the games that you've known before? I mean, this is so different, right?
Yeah, and I also think it's not fair because it's, the situation is as it is. And I keep saying it's better to have these games than not having games at all. So I think for this generation of players, it's obviously a pity that they cannot enjoy the Olympic Games the way I was able to enjoy it 3 times. But then again, I have to say that there were also differences. In China, from a spectator's perspective, it was, at least at the hockey stadium, it was very, you could see that people are not so interested in the sport in the end, and that they were just there because in a way, that was at least the argument back then. They probably even had to be there in a way. Then in London, we had this fantastic sport enthusiastic fans who knew everything about our game, and suddenly there were standing ovations when we had changing the side in midfield. You had a good pass there, and people were clapping hands, and we were like, "Wow, they know that this is good. What impressive!" And then Rio, we all know that hockey is not big in Brazil, so it was a little bit different there also. So what I'm trying to say here is that. I think the players and all the athletes, they have to do the best out of the existing situation. And in the end, I saw all the shining faces from the opening ceremony. Although it was an empty stadium, I keep following everyone on social media, and I see the smiling faces after games. And, in the end, now it's about the players. Now it's about the athletes, and it's not about what's happening on the sideline or in the stadium. And I think that everyone coming back from these Olympics, they will all say, we had an amazing time. Of course, it could always be better, but now it's about the tournament and enjoying the games.
Absolutely. We are moving on from the sort of the opening ceremony, but I'd just like to speak to you, Jackie. One of the great moments for me yesterday was watching the South African goalkeeper being the flag bearer for South Africa, and Fumalea. And that was an absolutely brilliant and iconic moment for me, because it was a female black hockey athlete just shining a light on the sport across the African continent. How do you feel about that?
Oh, we're very excited. I was very excited. We actually follow each other on Instagram, and even after that, there was this photos of her and her teammates basically are showing a united front. At the end of the day, I think being in the Olympics gives us an opportunity to speak about what we stand for, and that unity is what we stand for as a continent. And I'm sure South Africa, that's what they want to represent, a united front. Yes.
Yeah. It was brilliant, and there were some very poignant moments in the opening ceremony. But actually, there have been some quite poignant and very exciting moments during all of these matches that we've had today. So we'll turn our attention to the matches. We kicked off with an absolute cracker as the host nation Japan took on Australia. The final result, it was 5-3 to Australia. But the Kookaburras were made to sweat because Japan actually burst into life in the second quarter, scoring 3 goals in just 5 minutes. Kenta Tanaka scored 2. And he looks as if he's going to be a real home star for these games. Mo, just looking at that Australian side, aside from that second quarter slip, they looked really energetic and they looked full of ideas. Do you think, despite the fact that they haven't been able to play other nations apart from New Zealand in recent months, do you think that Colin Batcher's got his team firing at exactly the right moment?
Australia is always on top of their physical game whenever it comes to tournaments. I don't think I have seen them not being 100% in shape from a physical perspective in my entire career. In the end, the second thing that you said is more important, I think. It's definitely not easy if you're missing, in a way, the match praxis, from playing the top teams. And I think the European teams have a big advantage there. Because they just played the European Championships. They had these encounters with Belgium, Netherlands, GB, and they, in the semifinal final, they played these decisive matches. And this is a little advantage. I think that's also part of the answer to the question why, in the end, maybe it was just a 5-3. Although I agree that Japan did a very good job in the second quarter, but Australia needs those 5. They need the 5 group stage games. I'm very sure that they need that to get into the playing rhythm again. I think it's going to be a very interesting match against India now, because they are struggling a little bit with the very same problem that they are missing playing the top teams. They had a strong performance, especially on penalty corners today, with Harmanpreet scoring a couple of rockets. But I think that India-Australia is going to be a tough match. In the end, I think Australia is the better team at this point, a stronger team. But without having played the top teams in the past couple of 3-4 months, that's going to be a cracker, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? Because teams need to learn maybe how to go behind, and they need to learn how to come back from unusual situations. And as you say, Australia just haven't done that in the last few months. So that's going to be a really interesting one. Jackie, just sticking on that game for 1 second more. And I know this is something that can't be changed, but when Kenta Tanaka did produce his moments of brilliance, that's the sort of moment in a hockey player's sort of performance on a day where a crowd could really lift and get a momentum behind the team. That's obviously been a bit of a disadvantage to Japan, because I get the feeling, had they got the crowd behind them at that point when they were 3-2 up, that could have been quite a different story. What are your thoughts on that?
I totally agree, because I think being the host nation, you would have had so many people coming in to support, trying to urge the team to move forward. I think just 5-3 against Australia, for me, that's amazing for Japan. It also tells us that the gap is also closing down, where we had the weaker teams now are trying to adjust to the new systems of play and new tactical and technical advancement in the sport. So it would have been important to have more people or the crowds there to assist with just that emotional part. But I think well done to Japan today.
Yeah.
But I just can I add one thing? Because I totally agree with everything what you said. But I think we have to also remember the other side of that medal, because I also think that it was a lot easier for Japan to start into the game in the first place without the pressure of the home crowd sitting there. And, you know, sometimes that could also be a real downer. And then if you concede a couple of goals, then you have the home crowd that could also be like a down breaking factor, if you know what I mean. But I totally agree with if then they score the goals, that would have been an accelerator for them that pushed them to the limit. But I think in the end, it was for them probably even better to start without fans from a nervous and anxiety perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Japan are a team that if they'd walked out and there'd been a huge stadium full of people cheering on the hockey, you're absolutely right. Australia are probably better equipped to deal with that just because of past experiences.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's pros and cons on both sides. We also saw India and New Zealand play another high-tempo game. India emerged 3-2 winners. It was a close and exciting game. New Zealand took a 1-0 lead. One of the talking points in that game, and it's actually been mirrored in matches throughout the day, is the fact that some of the video referral decisions took quite a long time to get to. Now, this wasn't, I must stress, this wasn't the fault of the umpires. It wasn't the fault of the video umpires. It wasn't actually anybody's fault. It's just getting the technical aspects worked out. But I just wondered, it does give us a chance to explain to people who perhaps are new to the hockey scene, just how much we value video referrals and how much they are a part of the umpire's armoury. And if I just come to you first, Jackie, on that one, you'll have played matches with video referrals and without them. How important these days is the video referral for umpires?
Yeah, it's every single play is crucial. It's crucial because maybe there was that tapping that wasn't called, or maybe that foot that wasn't called, and you don't want an unfair advantage for one team against another. So I think it's very important. I'm sure they'll rectify the issues regarding to the slowness, but it's important to have that video referral.
Yeah, and it's also something as well, Mo, that I'm guessing players get coached into doing correctly now, because I know when it began, people were sort of throwing their arms up and calling for video referrals, sometimes very, very inappropriate moments. Is that something that now teams really concentrate on, when you make your video referrals, what the situation is and who does it as well?
Yeah, I think the top teams are very clear. No, probably all teams are very clear on who is calling it, and also about the quick communication inside the team in order to check, is that a moment where I should call the video? There are a couple of players probably in every team who are more or less allowed to call a video whenever they feel like, but usually there's kind of a hierarchy so that you have eye contact quickly, and then basically with your shoulders you decide if you're taking the video or you're not going to take it. But I think we are in the hockey world, we are a shining example of how a video umpire work and can also make the game better. But then on the other hand, I really think that we cannot sit on that throne and just celebrate. We also have to, every tournament, optimize our video umpiring and even shorten the gap. Although I agree with you, it was not the fault of the umpires today, but we still have to work on that. We cannot sit there and be happy with the fact how it is, because I still think there's room to improve. I still have the feeling that even, especially from the communication perspective, we sometimes the umpires struggle to communicate the right exact moment that they actually want to see. So sometimes we see a clip of like 10 seconds, or it was clear that it's only about the last couple of seconds of that clip. So you know what I mean? And that's wasting a lot of time already. And I think that's something that the umpires still have to work on. But I totally agree. It's been it's been improving so much. And it's it's a key element for the game, to be honest. It's a key element of the game. Without the video umpire nowadays, hockey with the speed of the game and this little tiny moments and foot in the circle, back stick in the circle, shielding, whatever, it's impossible for an umpire to see that. We need that help in order to make top hockey professional.
Absolutely, and I mean, speaking to umpires, they absolutely welcome it, and it's it's one of their big skills is being able to also take their place in the video box as well, and do that part of the game. The next two matches today were as different could be. On the south pitch, we had a fiery, energetic battle between the reigning champions Argentina and Spain. I've got to say the first half was largely one-way traffic, with Spain having nearly 30 circle penetrations to Argentina's 2, but it was Argentina who scored. Spain then equalised through Pau Kamada. We also had the Belgium versus Netherlands match, which was sort of billed as the highlight of the day, but I actually found that was played at a fraction of the intensity of some of the other games. It was almost like both teams were just easing their way into the tournament a little bit. But it was Alexander Hendricks who was the hero, because the Netherlands took the lead, and then Belgium, Alexander scored three goals from penalty corners within just 4 minutes. So I just wondered again, a penalty corner, it's one of the discrete skills that you can practice in hockey. It's one of the few discrete skills now. I mean, penalty strokes, penalty corners. Can you talk us through the elements of a penalty corner and explain to us how some players are just a notch above everybody else when it comes to being a penalty corner specialist, such as Pau Kamada or Hendricks or Blake Govers, for example?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah,
what is it
I mean, so the short corner in modern hockey, the top teams, a top drag flicker is looking to score like hopefully above 30% of the times. So 3 to 4 out of 10, that's a very good average. And if you look at that and you consider the fact that you're getting about between 5 to whatever penalty corners a game, it's one of the most important parts of the offensive game. Get the penalty corners and then convert them or find the right structure how to do them. So it all starts with push in or push out. I don't know how you say it in English the best way, but whoever does it, injection. Thank you. So the injection. I'm thinking about needles when I hear that word, but so the injection is so important. We're stopping the time. It has to be about 0.7 seconds, 0.8, and then it gets slower and slower. And it's depending so much on the pitch as well and on the practice. Then obviously that has to be on point. And there the stopper comes into the game. And you see that in world hockey, there is such a difference in good or bad stoppers. And we sometimes struggled with the German team when we didn't have the best stopper on the pitch, which is something that people will probably not understand if they're not familiar with the game. But it's such an important point if you are able to really put it down like that on the ground and give the drag flicker the opportunity to really work on that perfect movement with probably a couple of steps, the cross step, and then you're trying to accelerate and turn the body as quickly as you can in order to give it a real swoosh at the end with your wrist. And you see that especially on this pitch, and this is why Alex Hendricks and also Harmanpreet, they scored really, really like hard corners today because this pitch helps because it's a very, very fast pitch. And it helps to do this last push. If you're flicking it out of your wrist, you can really see that with the last push, the ball speeds up and is probably like 10 to 20 kilometers an hour faster than it is on a normal turf. So the drag flicks in this tournament are going to be very decisive. It's not a very brave call to say that I really think that the top penalty corners will decide the Olympic Games in 2021.
I mean, yeah, just looking at the games today, an awful lot of matches were won on penalty corners. So, yeah, already it's proving the point. As a coach, Jackie, when you're looking at somebody to take one of those very important roles within the penalty corner setup, how important is the athlete's mental attributions in terms of calmness and strength of mind and focus and things like that?
Yeah, it's very important. Even the time they have taken to just get to that point where they're taking that penalty corner, how much work have they put in? And if they put in the work, when they're supposed to deliver, can they deliver? The focus comes in when the delivery takes place. Are they fast enough? Are they decisive? And sometimes during the short corner, they need to change their minds. They don't need to go for the left or top roof, and then somehow it's covered in between. Can they change their mind? So they have to be quick thinkers, very focused, excellent in execution. So for me, that is very, very important. And as Mo said, even it's the whole setup, basically. If everyone is ready, then basically you'll get mainly a good goal at the end of the day. Yeah, so it's important to have a good player ready. Yeah.
As we've seen today, a well-rehearsed penalty corner can be the difference between a win and a loss. You spoke, Mo, about the importance of making sure the right personnel are on the pitch at the right time. So, you know, if you're going through a phase where you're pushing to win penalty corners, getting that penalty corner team on the pitch is very important. We saw the Netherlands get into a little bit of a muddle today, and Captain Billy Bakker ended up being sent off with a yellow card because the Netherlands had 12 players on the pitch. You know Billy, obviously, from the European circuit. He's going to be fairly fed up about that, isn't he? No, are you?
Yeah, he will. I mean, we shared rooms in India for 2 years, so he started getting mad when I didn't switch out the light at night. So I can only imagine how he feels right now. I think. But you said it before. I think it's about coming into this tournament and getting into it, and they didn't want to show everything today. It was a little bit like how the humidity and let's see what happens. Everyone's expecting this to be a very, very important, decisive game, but in the end it isn't, because I think both teams are very confident to make the quarterfinals. Of course, they have to win at least 2 games, but I think they have the confidence that they can get into the quarterfinals. And we all know that in quarterfinals, I mean, of course, you want to avoid Australia in the quarterfinals, but in the end, then it's not much better to play India, Spain, or Argentina, or whoever qualifies from the other group. Obviously, we saw Japan today, who can definitely in Japan be a surprise. And I don't even want to dive into that, but I think Billy will come back, and I think they only have 24 hours, if I'm not mistaken, to recover from this loss, and that's very tough, to be honest, with the circumstances. So, but also on the other hand, it makes it easier for them to really shake that off and say, okay, our tournament starts new now, and if we don't lose a game from now on, then we still have a very good chance to win a medal. So I'm very confident that Billy will lead his team and get them out of the maybe bad feelings after today's loss.
Absolutely, he'll be smiling again at some point. We talked about the heat and you touched on the subject of the heat. Great Britain beat South Africa by a 3-1 margin in the penultimate men's match today. The South African team spent a large part of the last quarter with a reduced team because there were 2 yellow cards. In this heat, we've already said penalty corners are going to be significant, but actually cards are going to be significant because you don't want to be chasing around in this heat with a reduced amount of players on the pitch, even more than usual. Well, what are your thoughts on that one? If I come to Mo on that one first.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, don't get cards. It's as simple as that in the end. And I think Jackie and all the coaches will agree, because it just disrupts the game plan usually, right? So, but I mean, I know it's not as simple as that, but in the end, of course, if you're getting a couple of cards a game, that puts you 2 to 7 minutes, whatever it is in the end, it puts you down, and in that heat, that's just an extra yards for every other player on the pitch, and you have to work harder in that moment, and you'll probably have it very hard to find yourself a chance up front in that time, and we'll be defending a lot, and defending is running without the ball, and running without the ball is always more exhausting than running with the ball and having the excitement of trying to create something. So yeah, I mean, you want to have the ball in order to have attack as your best defense in a way. And our coach always kept saying that the ball is the fittest player in our team, so just let him run and not us so much. And I think it's a very simple sentence, but in the end, it's very true. So having cards is always a game changer, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So don't get cards is the advice from Mo first, and he should know what you know what you're talking about there, Mo. Jackie, just staying on that subject of heat.
I'm so smart. I'm such a smart I'm such a smart visionist, right? It's such a new idea of the hockey
Absolutely,
game.
yeah. The keep it simple. That's the best way of coaching. We've agreed that. Jackie, just coming to you as in your coaching capacity as much as anything else, but also you're captain of the team. What would your advice be to the players who have played a match today and have, as Mo quite rightly says, have got to turn around and play again pretty quickly afterwards? There's got to be a very, very strict recovery regime now, hasn't there?
Definitely. Recovery is everything. But also apart from the physical recovery is also the mental recovery. How soon can you recover from either loss or even a win? Because if you had a win, maybe your emotions are too high and you're like, oh, I'm ready for the next game. But maybe just that calmness within that, just finding that balance is important. So if you've lost a match, how do we regroup as a team? We must stay together, make sure the team is together, united. Everyone is of one mind. Okay, so maybe we didn't do well this game. Let's regroup. Let's look at weaknesses. How can we play better in the next match? And in terms of player recovery, are we getting enough rest? Are we getting the right nutrition as well? So it's important to look at those aspects. And if the areas that we did well, let's try and maximize on that. And yeah, just move forward. Yeah, that's the only way, not looking back, moving forward.
Yes, one team that I think will need to stay quite calm today is the Irish women's team. I don't know if you managed to see that, but their first Olympic match, this is the first time they've qualified for the Olympics. They came out, they sang their hearts out with the national anthem. They then went and beat South Africa 2-0. They are obviously going to be very excited, but this is a mirror image of what they did at the 2018 World Cup. They turned up, no fear, went out and enjoyed it. How long could that momentum keep going? I'll come to you, Jackie, on that one. How can the Irish do it again?
Well, I found out last week that the Irish women are like passionate about hockey. I know we are all passionate about hockey, but that's where they want to really show themselves. And they did it in 2018. I can only expect the best out of them. But they haven't gotten enough playing time with other teams. So if they can keep the focus, then we might see the same 2018 output. I don't know. We'll see.
A roll of momentum. The other women's match that took place today was obviously the Netherlands versus India. I turned on to that match and I didn't expect to see a 1-1 scoreline for the first half. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people who've watched the Dutch over the last 4 or 5 years wouldn't have expected that scoreline either. But they did turn it around and they finished up 5-1 winners. Mo, you will obviously have seen the Dutch women in action over the last 5 years. Are they unstoppable, or can somebody at this tournament stop them?
I don't think they're stoppable. Honestly, I think they are just too good. And I mean, if of course on a one-day game anything can happen, we all know that, and theoretically there is a chance, and I'm rooting for, of course, the German team to maybe beat them once, because they lost the last important games, but they never lost by a high margin. But in the end, that's the strength of the Dutch, and that was their strength the entire time. At least throughout my career, it was the very same thing. It was always them up there as well, and we had fun conversations about that after a tournament when we were then sitting with a gold medal together. And they are so athletic, and they have such a big pool of players. They can basically interchange without a drop of any quality, which is a big strength. And I really think that it's them, that they are the team to beat. If you want to win a medal, and a gold medal, especially at the Olympic Games in Tokyo, you have to beat the Dutch at one point, and probably in the final. That's my expectation.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with you. And as you say, they replace player for player, don't they? Because I noticed today Felice Albers came in, scored goals. She's only got 10 caps, but she's slotted into that team beautifully. As usual, I've got heaps of questions, but time has actually caught up with us. So I just really like to ask you both about tomorrow's fixtures. I'll just rattle through them quickly for the sake of the viewers. Tomorrow we have got 4 women's games. We've got Great Britain taking on Germany. That will be of interest to you, Mo. And as you say, quite still waving his flag. We've got Japan versus China, which is going to be a great clash of two Asian giants. I mean, Japan have been on the up recently, Japan women, and China we haven't seen a lot of, so that'll be an interesting one. Australia, a new coach in Katrina Powell. They played very, very well against New Zealand in the recent Pro League matches. They're taking on Spain, who are always a bit of an unknown quantity, but will certainly be putting in a lot of energy. New Zealand against Argentina will be a clash of two teams that have always got medal prospects. And then the men's matches, fascinating. India versus Australia. I mean, that's the second day of a tournament. That's a great fixture.
Yeah.
Spain versus New Zealand, Japan versus Argentina, and South Africa versus Netherlands. So if I come to you first, Jackie, which of those takes your fancy? What should people tune into?
Man, they're all great. Germany, GB, you know, that's gonna be awesome. For the ladies, I need to watch that. Actually, I want to watch all of them. Japan versus China, always high tempo, high scoring, high everything, high energy. Australia, Spain, very technical game. I can't wait to see that one. You know, I think the match of tomorrow might be New Zealand versus Argentina. That's my take. That's my take.
It'll be a good well,
yeah.
Thank you. What about you, Mo?
Well, yeah, obviously I'm going to watch the German girls playing GB. That's a very exciting match. They just played a couple of matches. They were really close. So looking forward to that. And then, as I said before, for me, Australia against India is really I think from that match, you can see a lot about what's happening in this tournament. And you cannot forget that Australia has something to prove. They are struggling. And I know a lot of the guys, they're struggling with the outcome of Rio. They are also in a way struggling with the outcome of the couple past Olympics before that, although they grabbed the medal. But I know they want that final. They want to win the gold medal. They see themselves as world number one. They want to prove that. And they kind of tried today, but we talked about that already. But they know this is the time now. They have to shine. They will want to beat India as much as they can. And India is tough. So that's going to be a very, very interesting game.
Yeah, that'll be laying down a marker. Well, thank you so much, you two. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. We will, of course, see you again over the course of these shows. But thank you very much for taking the time. Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you very much.
And thank you very much, Mo. Thank you, and thank you, everybody, for watching.